Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for tuning in, clicking on. This is the Kehillat Sha'arei Torah Halacha Review for Friday, June 12th, Erev Shabbos. We were speaking yesterday about airplane safety in addition to halachas and minhagim, correct behaviors and the correct view with which to regard the whole situation of traveling on a plane. I might as well tell you the story. A friend of mine from Yeshiva, who happens to be of Egyptian background, his parents come from Egypt, so he has a darker skin coloring perhaps than I do, and a number of the boys in our Yeshiva had. And a tall guy and he happened to be a bodybuilder, so he's very well muscled and all that. So he was flying on a flight, I think, from New York to maybe Charlotte, North Carolina or somewhere, not a long flight, maybe a 2 or 2.5 hour flight, in the weeks or months immediately after 9/11, after September 11th, 2001. So what happened was an early morning flight. He got on the flight probably 6 or 7 o'clock, too early in the morning to daven. So once he got on the plane and the plane got underway, he took out his tefillin and strapped them on his arm and started davening. So he's in the middle of davening, didn't want to talk. Meanwhile, the flight attendants were trying to ask him, "What are those things, sir, that you're strapping onto your head and your arms?" They had obviously never seen tefillin before. If you can believe, there are some flight staff in North America that still are not familiar with talis and tefillin. I had a whole conversation last year at the airport in Florida with people who gave a whole lecture to all about the meaning of tefillin and the scriptural basis for this. I had a rapt audience. Everybody stayed awake the whole way. While I talked to all the security people who were x-raying my tefillin. So I had a fun conversation there. Anyway, the flight staff with my friend could not get his attention, couldn't get a satisfactory answer. They brought the plane down. They did a forced emergency landing, called the FBI, and got this suspected terrorist, this Middle Eastern-looking gentleman, strapping these unknown devices onto his arms and head to give an accounting and explaining. I believe in the end no charges were pressed against him, but it was certainly an instructive story that we have to be clear and give clear signals and be in communication with what we're doing. Another advice might be that you can wait, either try to daven before, put on tefillin at least, before you take off or after you land, depending on how long of a haul the flight is. So have to be conscious everywhere we go, certainly not just when traveling by air, but anytime, anywhere, every place, everything we do should be a Kiddush Hashem, should be sanctifying God's name, making people think good things about the Jews and admiring us rather than, God forbid, the opposite. Okay, how did we get to this conversation? Because we were talking about washing our hands. Now, after you've slept, before you wash your hands, you're supposed to, before you touch food, before you eat, pick up food and eat it, you're supposed to wash your hands. So you see this in some of the kosher restaurants. They say that all the staff is required to wash their hands in the morning. This is a relatively new innovation of the COR for caterers and for restaurants. What happens on a plane? If you've noticed, I'm sure you've noticed, sometimes you have to wait your turn to get to the bathroom. Other people are in line for it. So what? So if you took a nap more than a half an hour, you're not supposed to touch your food before you washed your hands. Ideally, you should wait in line and go wash your hands with a cup. Take your little coffee cup, paper coffee cup with your plastic coffee cup with you, and wash your hands before you start eating. Now, it's a little bit of a b'diavad situation. It's after the fact because we're not obviously in full control of everything here. Can't just walk into the kitchen and wash our hands. So some posts can permit the food b'diavad. It's not the best practice, but if you have to, you have to. So that's that. What else do we say? If let's say you're leaving Toronto, you're flying to Israel, so you fall asleep, you wake up a couple hours later, and you want to make your bracha. So you go and you wash your hands, as you should do in the morning when you wake up, and then you're going through the brachas, and you come to this bracha of Baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Roka haaretz al hamayim. Blessed is God who sets our feet solidly, firmly on the ground. Okay, so you're 38,000 feet above the ground. Your feet aren't touching anything. So they say that even if you're only standing on the floor of the airplane, that would be okay. How did we come to this? Because we traveled by ship for many centuries before we ever got to air travel. So we did deal with this question. You're allowed to say the bracha, Roika haaretz al hamayim, when you wake up in the morning on a plane. Okay, have a wonderful Shabbat. Let me just remind you that the earliest candle lighting tonight is 7:23. Actual candle lighting is 8:41. We're getting close to the latest candle lighting of the year. Motzei Shabbos, tomorrow Shabbat ends at 9:56. For anyone who would like to, please feel welcome to click in to Zoom Havdalah, which we have been having for the last couple of weeks at 10 minutes after the end of Shabbat. So 10:06 tomorrow, you can click on the link in your email and join us for Zoom Havdalah and see your friends from KST. Have a wonderful, restful, peaceful Shabbos, and we'll see you right after.